Welcome to Storytimer at Large. Linda Kay Harmon. On October 4th, 1975, a farm dog trotted home with something unusual in its mouth. Upon close inspection by the farmer, that unusual object was found to be a human arm. That must have been horrific for that farm family there in Clermont County, Ohio. It must have been quite shocking. It may not have been that surprising, though. That area of southern Ohio was going through a terrible crime wave of abductions, rapes, and murders. Young women's remains were being found all over the Cincinnati area. Keep in mind, this is 1975, and similar things are happening all over Ohio, not just to young women, but also to young men and boys and girls. Linda Kay Harmon was from Forestville, Ohio. That's a community just east of Cincinnati. Linda loved poetry and music. She hoped to become a recording engineer and work behind the scenes in the music industry. She was looking forward to the start of classes at Withrow High School. Linda was last seen on September 3rd, 1975. Her mother reported her missing on September 6th after checking with friends and family. I imagine that Doris Schutz was desperately trying not to panic. I imagine she was hoping just to find Linda at a friend's house. Linda Kay Harmon was found just a month later in Clermont County. Her remains had been scattered by animals in a field in that rural area. She was officially identified in mid-October of 1975. In the coming year, even more young women and girls would be abducted, assaulted, and murdered. An unknown young woman was found in Kentucky in April of 1975. I haven't actually found out if she was ever identified yet. Kentucky doesn't have a a website for that's searchable for those kind of things, but I'll continue to follow up on that. Cora Ellen Durham O'Leary was found on June 20th, 1976. Dorothy Madden was last seen alive on August 8th, 1975. Carol Sue Klaber was last seen on June 4th, 1976. She was found 14 hours later. Carol had been bludgeoned to death and strangled. She was found only clothed in a bra and a shirt. She was from Wright, Kentucky. Mary Ruth Hopkins disappeared on June 29, 1976. She was found raped and murdered the following day. Mary Ruth Hopkins was found in a wooded area, and that wooded spot was off 5 Mile Road north of Kellogg Avenue in Anderson Township in Ohio. Linda Sue Dyer was found on August 22nd, 1976. She was found in a wooded area, isolated area off Coleraine Township, in Coleraine Township. That's on Cincinnati's northwest side. Dorothy Sullivan was found on August 28th, 1976. Another man was convicted of her murder, but it is incredibly similar to the killings that Larry Ralston was convicted of. Victoria Hincher was found on October 20th, 1976. Her murder is unsolved, but very similar to the murders which Ralston was convicted of. I think that the key piece of evidence is the type of rope used to strangle these victims, and I think Victoria Hincher was found possibly with this same kind of rope. Her name is sometimes spelled incorrectly. Her name is Hinscher. And sometimes you'll see in the old newspaper articles they have Hinchler as her last name. Her grave names her actually as Victoria Uchniat. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Uchniat. And I mention this in case investigators want to find her grave for possible exhumation in the future. That's Victoria Hincher, also known as Victoria Uchniat or Uchniat, Uchniat. But she is on Find a Grave, and you can find her there. Yeah. Diane Sue McRoby was found October 22nd, 1976. Larry Ralston's name in her address book helped investigators zero in on Ralston as a suspect. Nancy Grigsby was murdered in November of 1976. Elena Baer was murdered in February of 1977. On September 24th, 1977, Larry Ralston picked up 3 teenage girls. He drove them to a secluded area. He sexually assaulted all 3, but inexplicably, he did not kill them. The area where they were raped was close to where another victim's remains had been found. Before the assault, the girls were talking to Larry Ralston, and they got a good look at him. They could describe him and his vehicle. They went to police and reported the rapes. Police believed the girls, thankfully. Ralston was identified by the 3 girls as their attacker. When his name was also present in Diane McRoby's address book, police began to consider him the prime target of the investigation into the 1975-1977 murders. Larry Ralston was convicted of Linda Kay Harmon's murder. She's the young lady in this photo here. He was also convicted of the murders of Elaine Baer, Diane McRoby, and Nancy Grigsby. He was given life sentences in each of those murders. In 2018, he was up for parole, but he failed to show up to his hearing, and parole was then denied. I truly hope that he is never released. He's up for parole again in 2028, and let's hope that parole is denied. One of the reasons why I put out these videos is so that the public knows what kinds of things these murderers did in the 1970s. And so that when parole hearings are there, the victims' families are aging, and at a certain point they might not be able to show up for parole hearings to oppose parole for some of these murderers. And so if the general public knows and someone feels inclined to try to get a seat at the parole hearing to speak on behalf of these victims, I think that would be truly a really good idea. But, hoping they don't get forgotten is something I try to do here. Linda Kay Harmon deserved a long and peaceful life. She deserved to be able to pursue her dream of becoming a recording engineer and working around musicians. She deserved to have all of her dreams come true. But that all was denied her by Larry Ralston. We can't bring her back, but we can remember her. Rest in peace, Linda. Thank you so much for listening to this video. If you're subscribing, thank you for subscribing. If you're not subscribing, maybe consider hitting the subscribe button. The more attention cases get, the more likely they are to be solved. Of course, Linda Kay Harmon's case here is solved, but there are so many other victims out there whose cases are not yet solved. I look at unsolved and solved cases so that if investigators out there find any sort of overlap, any sort of similarities, they can then look into those kinds of things. Sometimes the solved cases get, you know, shelved and forgotten about, especially as time goes on, and with so much new crime coming at investigators every day. But looking at what happened, looking at the full picture of the history of what happened, can sometimes help fill in the blanks of a cold case. So thanks again for listening. I hope you're having a good day. Take good care of yourselves and take good care of those around you.